My girlfriend is the reigning queen of New York's high finance. I'm just a guy in the trenches, a face in the corporate crowd. No one ever bet on us, the couple with a canyon of class between them. Then, on Valentine's Day, Isabel had a car accident and lost her memory. When she woke up, she'd forgotten everything about me. All she did was cry for her long-lost love. "Where's my Julian? I need to see Julian." The Reed family was overjoyed. They immediately severed our connection and pushed Julian Croft into the spotlight. I didn't say a word. I just quietly packed my things and left. They didn't know I'd been waiting for this day for a very long time. Isabel Reed wasn't some gentle lamb. She was a monster, a beautiful, twisted psychopath. 01 Isabel Reed was in a car accident. On Valentine's Day of all days, a truck T-boned her sedan. She was lucky to be alive, a testament to German engineering. The injuries were mostly minor, except for a severe concussion. I got the news and rushed back for my business trip. The hospital room at Lenox Hill was swarming with Reeds. I pushed through the murmuring crowd, my face a carefully constructed mask of panic. "Belle, are you okay?" "I'm so sorry. I got back as fast as I could." I grabbed her hands, my eyes wide with worry. She flinched, yanking her hands from my grasp, as if I'd burned her. I froze, confused. Like a frightened child, she looked past me, her voice trembling. "Who are you? Where's my Julian?" A jolt went through me. My blood ran cold, my mind a sudden, roaring void. The Reeds all stared, their expressions dumbfounded. It seemed they were just as clueless as I was. After a few dozen seconds of stunned silence, I snapped out of it and called for a doctor, a terrible suspicion already forming in my mind. The patient's condition is stable, nothing life-threatening, the neurologist explained to me and the assembled family. However, the blow to the head was significant. Combined with the psychological trauma of the event, our diagnosis is selective amnesia. Judging by Isabel's reaction, she had indeed lost her memory. Specifically, every single memory of me. I couldn't fathom why her selective amnesia had chosen to erase only me. Maybe, to her, our 3 years together were just that disposable. I couldn't help but look at the beautiful woman lying in the hospital bed. Her gaze met mine, and it was frigid. For a second, our eyes locked, and a chill crawled up my spine. A flood of ugly memories washed over me. That look, I quickly broke eye contact, not daring to meet her gaze, terrified of what might happen. The Reeds were huddled in a corner, whispering amongst themselves. They'd always despised me, so being excluded was nothing new. The situation was agonizingly awkward. Isabel had forgotten me, and her family couldn't wait to see me gone. I didn't know whether to stay or go, so I just stood in the corner, fading into the wallpaper. About 10 minutes later, Isabel's father, Harrison Reed, walked over to me. We stepped out of the room together. Standing in the stairwell, his barely suppressed excitement and undisguised disgust told me everything I needed to know. My time with Isabel Reed was officially over. 02-inch UC, Leo, Harrison began, his voice dripping with condescension. Isabel has amnesia. She's completely forgotten you. She doesn't know who you are, but she remembers Julian Croft. Let's just cut the crap. It's over between you and Isabel. Julian's family might not be on our level, but they're a respectable name, and the man has a doctorate from Oxford. There's simply no comparison between the two of you. Every word was a twisting knife. He wasn't just breaking us up. He was trying to break me down. Isabel is a woman. Her mother, Camilla, said, appearing suddenly at his side. No matter how brightly she shines in the business world now, she will eventually need to settle down and start a family. Julian is the perfect match. He will be the pillar she can rely on. Her gaze swept over me dismissively. You, on the other hand, are not. If you have any sense, you'll end things with her now, Camilla continued, her tone leaving no room for argument. I'll have my people erase every trace of your time with her. I can allow you to remain at the company. As a subordinate, she knows vaguely, but that's it. Nothing more. The two of them were a perfectly synchronized duet of disdain. I stared at them, my face a placid mask. Inside, I felt nothing. 3 years. 3 whole years. I had never earned an ounce of their approval. I had never once set foot inside the Reed family mansion. All because I wasn't born into their world. They saw me as a gold digger, a toad lusting after a swan. My love for Isabel was real. For her, I had endured every sneer, every insult. But she had forgotten me. There was no reason to endure it anymore. Fine, I said softly. Harrison and Camilla stared, momentarily stunned. In their minds, I was clinging to Isabel for her money. I was supposed to grovel, to cause a scene. This easy compliance was not in their script. Are you sure? Harrison asked, a hint of disbelief in his voice. I nodded. Another beat of silence. You don't have any conditions, for example. Camilla cut him off with a sharp look. Her thinking was obvious. A clean break with no payout was the ideal outcome. Then it settled. To be safe, you'll sign an agreement. Just to make sure you don't change your mind later, she said. A bitter smile touched my lips, but I ignored her. I was willing to walk away, and they still wanted to slap me with a contract. Did they really think I was that stupid? My silence made their faces flush with anger. When I walked back into the hospital room, a new person was there. The man was handsome, dressed impeccably in a way that screamed old money and Ivy League. He had an air of academic polish that I knew would make women swoon. Julian, thank you for coming to see me, Isabel said, her voice sweet and docile. A stark contrast to her tone with me just moments before. It hit me with a jolt. So this was him, Julian Croft, Isabel's white moonlight, the one that got away. He had been so focused on pursuing his doctorate overseas that their budding romance had fizzled out. I should have known the Reeds would move this fast. They couldn't wait to replace me. The moment I entered, Julian's eyes raked over me, a look of smug triumph and open provocation in them. He was practically screaming, "Get back in your hole, trash. Don't ruin the view." Just like the rest of the Reeds, he looked at people down the bridge of his nose. And this is... Isabel asked suddenly, her eyes fixing on me. He's just an employee from the sales department at the company. Camilla interjected smoothly, erasing my real identity. Oh, is that so? Isabel's eyes narrowed slightly. Isn't it working hours? Why would a sales guy be here? And he was just holding my hand. If you hadn't said anything, I might have thought we were a couple. She smiled, a slight, knowing curve of her lips. Her words sent a ripple of alarm through the room. Harrison gave me a subtle, warning nudge. I had no choice but to play along, my voice stiff. Of course not. I'm just a regular employee from the sales team. I was feeling unwell and came to the hospital pharmacy to pick up a prescription. I heard you were recovering here, so I just thought I'd stop by to pay my respects. My explanation was flimsy, but it was logically sound. Whether she believed it or not was anyone's guess. Everyone watched her tense. Julian, in particular, shot me a look of pure venom, terrified his newfound hope was about to be dashed. After a long moment, Isabel finally spoke. What's your name? I didn't know what she was getting at, but I answered obediently. Leo Martinez. Good, she said, her gaze locking onto mine. I'll remember you. For a fleeting second, a glint of steel flashed in her eyes. Julian's face soured. My heart hammered against my ribs. A wave of pure terror washed over me. It's her. She's here. But it was daytime. She wasn't supposed to come out until night. 03, I quickly made an excuse and fled the hospital. Every second I stayed was torture. Isabel Reed has a severe case of dissociative identity disorder. Very few people know about it. Besides her, her psychiatrist, and me, no one else is aware. Meeting the brilliant genius of New York finance wasn't a coincidence. Isabel's psychiatrist is my older sister, Chloe. At the time, I didn't know she was the renowned CEO of the Reed Corporation. Chloe never told me, and I just assumed she was a regular patient. Isabel's condition was critical. She was suffering from severe depression and mental exhaustion. To hide her illness, she had moved out of her family's mansion. This isolation only deepened her loneliness, and Chloe became her only confidant. She started coming over to my place for dinner often, and we grew close. The more we talked, the more we found our tastes and interests aligned. Of course, I never told Chloe about this. Gradually, Isabel's condition improved. The signs of her exhaustion vanished. 3 years ago, on Valentine's Day, she confessed her feelings for me. I accepted without hesitation. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever met. Only after we started dating did I discover the truth. Isabel had two starkly different personalities. The one who appeared during the day was the woman I fell in love with, gentle, poised, brilliant, a queen in the boardroom. But the moment she came home at night, she became someone else, ruthless, calculating, and dangerously possessive. When I refused her offer to work at the Reed Corporation, she systematically dismantled the company I worked for, bought it out, and brought me under her control, leashed like a dog. She went through every female contact in my phone, deleting them all, leaving only my family. For her, I, a natural extrovert, cut off my entire social circle. My world shrank until it contained only her. Still, she was cruel to me, yet unfailingly kind to everyone else. Isabel's love was suffocating. I was her property. When she was happy, I was her cherished toy. When she was in a bad mood, I was her punching bag. What broke me was her refusal to ever define our relationship. She never acknowledged me publicly, never stood up to her family. I was a dirty secret, a rat scurrying in the shadows, terrified of being discovered. After 3 years, I was completely drained. I finally understood that I couldn't count on Isabel. This Valentine's Day, I deliberately accepted a business trip out of state and texted her that we were through. She was furious and was on her way to confront me when she had the accident, leaving her in a coma for 2 days. From that flash of steel in her eyes, I was certain that was the personality that was only supposed to come out at night. While Isabel was still in the hospital, I rushed back to our apartment to move out. I was terrified she might suddenly regain her memory. The living room was a gallery of our life together, photos from 3 years of trips and milestones. She knew I loved to read, so she had a custom library built. I knew she loved plants, so I'd filled the balcony with succulents and potted flowers. We even had a room dedicated to the gifts we'd exchanged over the years. I had always thought of Isabel as 2 separate people sharing one body and one face. They were fundamentally different individuals. I loved her primary personality, the gentle, brilliant woman who only appeared during the day. Lost in thought, I hadn't even started packing when the front door burst open. Leading the charge were Julian Croft and Isabel's cousin, Spencer. "All right, people, let's get to it." Spencer barked at a crew of professional movers. Julian surveyed the warm, inviting space, his initial calm expression curdling into a sneer. "Stop," I yelled, stepping in front of them. From the looks on their faces, I knew this wasn't just a supervised move. "No can do, Leo," Spencer said smugly. "My Aunt Camilla was very clear. This place needs to be sterilized. Every trace of you has to be wiped clean." My body went rigid. I knew the Reeds despised me, but I never imagined they would be this thorough, this cruel. "You said I had a day to pack my things. What happened to your word?" I demanded. Why should we waste a single minute on a worthless gold digger like you?" Spencer shot back. "We're doing this now. What are you going to do about it?" Julian, who had been silent until now, sauntered over to the wall of our photos. He casually picked up a framed picture of Isabel and me. "Why are you so attached to this stuff? It's over. Are you still clinging to some fantasy?" He mused, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "It's all very, homey, a real picture of domestic bliss." He let his hand go limp. The glass frame shattered on the hardwood floor. "Get started," he commanded, his voice sharp. The movers sprang into action. "You son of a bitch," I seethed, lunging at him. Spencer immediately blocked my path. "Leo, I wouldn't do that if I were you." I looked at the crew of movers, then back at them. I was outnumbered. I could only stand there, helpless, and watch them dismantle my life. "Remember what you agreed to," Julian said, his voice low and menacing. "Stay away from Isabel from now on, or there will be consequences." He had finally dropped the pretense. Underneath the polished, sophisticated exterior, he was just another arrogant, spoiled rich kid. He had never once looked me in the eye as an equal, only as a piece of trash to be disposed of. But I was the piece of trash who had won the goddess's heart. That's why he had to humiliate me. I watched them toss our photos into garbage bags. I watched them smash the treasured gifts in our collection room. The succulents and flowers I had so carefully nurtured were ripped from their pots and thrown, dirt and all, into the trash. In less than an hour, the apartment looked like it had been ransacked. I grabbed a few essential items and walked out, the sound of Spencer and Julian's mocking laughter following me down the hall. As long as I could escape Isabel's control, it was all worth it. But for some reason, a sharp pain lanced through my chest. A dark thought crossed my mind. I wonder how long Julian Croft would last if Isabel's psycho personality treated everyone with perfect equality. Could he survive her for 3 years? 2 weeks later, Isabel returned to the office. At the same time, I heard that a major reshuffling of key positions was underway at the company. What made my blood run cold was that Isabel specifically asked to see me. The new executive assistant, Sarah, a direct beneficiary of the reshuffling, escorted me to the CEO's office and left. I had been in this office countless times, but never with such a feeling of dread. Isabel stood with her back to me, staring out at the Manhattan skyline. Even from behind, I could see she had lost weight. She turned around abruptly, her gaze sharp and penetrating, like a prosecutor studying a suspect. Our relationship wasn't so simple, was it? She said, her voice a low purr. My stomach clenched, but I kept my expression neutral. Isabel was smart. She didn't remember me, but she had pieced together clues from that day in the hospital. She was testing me, baiting me, waiting for me to slip up. I forced myself to remain calm, my voice steady as I lied through my teeth. Ms. Reed, you're overthinking it. I'm just a low-level employee. How could I possibly have any special relationship with you? Isabel stared at me, her eyes drilling into mine, searching for any flicker of deceit. But I was a goddamn Oscar-worthy actor, my face an emotionless mask. After a long moment, she sighed, and her tone suddenly turned vicious. Has anyone ever told you what a terrible liar you are? I can see right through you. She leaned forward. Fine. If you won't talk, I have my ways of making you show your hand. A shiver of fear shot through me. I looked up at her, and her eyes were ice, her voice laced with venom. This was her. This was the personality that had tormented me for 3 years. Get out, she snapped, her mood shifting in an instant. The erratic whim was a hallmark of her psycho personality. I returned to my desk, my mind reeling. At lunchtime, a delivery of afternoon tea arrived for our department. The packaging was from a ridiculously expensive bakery. All right, everyone, my department head, Mark Edwards, announced cheerfully, a little treat from Mr. Croft for the entire sales team. Standing behind him, radiating that same Ivy League charm, was Julian Croft himself. My colleagues erupted in cheers and whispers. Mr. Croft? As in, Julian Croft of the Croft family? Why is he sending our department afternoon tea? Seriously, are you living under a rock? Everyone knows he and the boss go way back. They're childhood friends. I heard he just got back from overseas and he's trying to win her over. I looked down and smirked. I knew exactly what Julian was. A phony. If he was trying to woo Isabel, why send treats only to the sales department? The company had dozens of departments. Why not send them to everyone? Julian personally handed out the little boxes of pastries, his movements gentlemanly and elegant, earning him a chorus of praise. The pile of boxes dwindled one by one until it was my turn. And just like that, they were gone. Oh dear, my apologies, Julian said with a theatrical sigh. It seems we're one short. I thought I had the head count right. Mark, that's on you, he said, turning to my boss. Yes, absolutely. My mistake. Mark said, play his part perfectly. The two of them, a perfectly rehearsed performance. Now I understood. Julian leaned in close, his voice a whisper in my ear. I don't know why Isabel called you to her office this morning, but I suggest you get rid of any stupid ideas you might have. Trash is trash. It belongs buried in the ground. He clapped me on the shoulder, his eyes glinting with provocation. His little act didn't go unnoticed. In an office, especially a sales department full of sharks, everyone saw everything. They'd already drawn their conclusion. Julian Croft had it out for me. Before long, the gossip would spread through the entire company. He was using his status as a Croft to deliberately isolate me. You're really pulling this childish, passive-aggressive crap? Pathetic, I said, my voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Screw it. The rumors were going to fly anyway. Why should I take it lying down? I hadn't realized he already had spies in my department, reporting my every move. You'd be wise to watch yourself, he hissed, having made his point. Then he left. I was furious. His stunt was genuinely nauseating. The worst part was that all I could do was talk back. It had no real effect. My colleagues were already whispering, their eyes darting toward me. About an hour later, Sarah appeared at my desk again. The CEO wants to see you. To my surprise, my boss, Mark Edwards, was called in with me. When we entered the office, I saw several boxes of exquisite pastries on Isabel's desk from a different, even more exclusive bakery than the ones Julian had sent. She gestured towards them, her expression icy. "Take them." Her words were clipped, refusing any further explanation. I was completely baffled, unsure what she wanted. Sarah efficiently packed the pastries into a bag and handed it to me. Then, Isabel turned her gaze to Mark. "Who do you work for, Mark? Me or a Julian Croft?" Mark was blindsided, stammering, at a complete loss for words. Isabel's aura turned razor-sharp. "Go to HR and submit your resignation." This time I understood. Even Mark understood. The gossip had traveled fast. "Ms. Reed, I haven't done anything wrong," he pleaded, realizing too late that doing a small favor for the boss's suitor had cost him his job. "Do you have any idea what the consequences of your actions are for your team members?" she asked, her voice dangerously calm. "I don't like repeating myself." "Figured out." Isabel gave him no chance, firing a department head with a single sentence. It seemed utterly insane, but now I was absolutely certain. The personality in control of Isabel's body was the second one, the madman. At first, I thought Isabel might have recovered her memory, but thinking about today's events, that seemed unlikely. If she truly remembered, she wouldn't have needed to test me. As for firing Mark, it wasn't about defending me. The company was in the middle of a major shake-up, and everyone knew Isabel was placing her most trusted people in key positions. Mark was just unlucky. He had crossed the one line her second personality would not tolerate: betrayal. After 3 years, I knew that personality inside and out. She still wanted me to confess the truth I was hiding. I ignored her. Silence was the best response. The news of Mark's firing spread like wildfire through the company. The rumor mill went into overdrive. Just before quitting time, Sarah appeared at my desk yet again. "Don't leave when your shift is over. The CEO needs to see you." She was like a machine, relaying orders without a hint of emotion. Exactly the kind of person the second personality preferred. My colleagues shot me strange looks, making my skin crawl. This was the third time today Isabel had summoned me. They knew it wasn't about work. The rumor mill was about to start churning again. "What the hell do you want?" I asked, my voice tight with frustration. We were sitting across from each other in a ridiculously expensive restaurant. Isabel was elegantly cutting her steak, her heiress in her natural habitat vibe, drawing looks from every corner of the room. She had tricked me. There was no business. "I told you," she said, dabbing her lips with a napkin, her expression coolly detached. "If you won't talk, I have my ways of making you show your hand. You're messing with me. Do you have any idea what the consequences of this will be for me?" My temper flared, and I couldn't keep my voice down. News of this dinner would undoubtedly reach the Reeds. Knowing them, they'd blame me for everything, twisting it into some pathetic attempt on my part to claw my way back. Isabel gave a disdainful smirk, a glint of undisguised mockery in her eyes. "Oh, what kind of consequences? And wouldn't you say this little outburst counts as showing your hand?" It hit me like a ton of bricks. My own outburst. I remembered her words. "I have my ways of making you show your hand." In that instant, I saw the terrifying possibility. She did all of this on purpose. I looked at the beautiful woman across from me and felt a cold shiver. The level of calculation. This was the second personality. All right. Just then, my phone rang, an unknown number. I was about to decline the call. "Answer it." Isabel's cold voice commanded from across the table. On speaker. I had no choice. I did as she said, praying it wasn't her family. "Leo Martinez, what in God's name do you think you're doing? Have you forgotten what you promised us? Where are you right now? We need to renegotiate." It was Camilla Reed's voice, shrill with fury. I knew it. The bomb had just gone off. A barely perceptible smile flickered across Isabel's face. She plucked the phone from my hand, her expression a mask of triumphant innocence. "Promised him what? Why do we need to renegotiate, Mother?" The other end of the line went dead silent. "Don't play dumb. I know you're hiding something from me," Isabel continued, her voice hardening. "And don't bother making excuses. Why would the great Camilla Reed personally need to renegotiate with a low-level employee? I need an explanation." A chilling aura radiated from her. She had systematically dismantled every possible excuse. This was the woman I had faced for countless nights. The one who gave me no way out, no room to explain, sealing every escape route. Being her opponent was a truly hopeless feeling. She had never treated me like a person. I was just her property, to be trampled on at her whim. "Come home. This isn't something we can explain over the phone," Camilla finally said, her voice strained. "Fine." Her goal achieved, Isabel hung up. She shot me a look, but said nothing more before striding out of the restaurant. A deep sense of unease filled me. I had no choice but to call my sister and tell her everything. "Leo, are you completely insane?" I laid it all out for Chloe, Isabel's entire situation, including our 3-year relationship. As expected, she tore into me. "You knew her personalities were switching every day, and you didn't say anything? Were you blinded by love? She's sick, Leo. She needs help. That's the simple truth." My sister was beyond furious, and I knew I had acted irresponsibly. But besides the personality switching, Isabel seemed normal. If she underwent treatment, I was terrified one of her personalities would be erased forever, especially the gentle, daytime personality, the one I loved. But I never imagined her psycho personality would be so torturous. I had endured it for 3 years, and in the end, I had to give up. "So, you're saying after the car accident and the amnesia, the psycho personality that used to only come out at night is now present during the day, too?" Chloe asked, her professional focus kicking in. I shook my head, correcting her. "No, the psycho personality is now the permanent one. It's her day and night." As much as I didn't want to admit it, the personality I had once loved was gone. You could say she was dead. Chloe sighed, patting my shoulder comfortingly. "Honestly, Leo, the two of you breaking up might not be a bad thing. Putting her dead aside, the class difference between you is just too vast. The Reeds would never have accepted you. You two were doomed from the start. The Reed family is a powerhouse. People like us can't fight that." Chloe admitted that she couldn't be sure of Isabel's current state without a proper diagnosis, especially after 3 years. But one thing was clear: staying away from Isabel Reed was the best thing for me. For 3 years, I saw no future with her. It was as if Isabel had vanished. After that night, I didn't see her again. I don't know what her family finally told her. The gossip at the company died down. Chloe was right. The gap between us was too wide. We were never going to make it. I gradually began to forget her, pouring myself into my work. The next time I heard news of Isabel was 2 months later. I was scrolling through the company Slack channel when my manager started posting photos. And then, a wedding invitation. Wow, I was wondering why we hadn't seen the boss in so long. Turns out she was on her honeymoon. Nice, they look so good together. A true power couple. Julian Croft and Isabel Reed. A perfect match. I don't know. The Crofts are rich, but they're nothing compared to the Reeds. This is more like he's marrying up, right? The channel exploded with chatter. I clicked through the photos one by one. They were taken all over the world. So that's where she'd been, traveling, with Julian Croft. In every photo, Isabel's smile was radiant, no trace of the icy woman I knew. For a second, I had the illusion that her primary personality had returned. Julian was her shadow, always by her side. They looked like any other couple deeply in love, just as we once had. Then I opened the electronic invitation. A picture of Isabel in a flowing white wedding gown filled my screen. She held a bouquet of flowers, her face luminous, glowing with happiness. Of course, I always knew she would be breathtaking in a wedding dress. I just never had what it took to be the one waiting for her at the altar. A sharp, unexpected pain seized my heart. I didn't understand. I was the one who walked away first. Why did I still feel this bitter sting of regret? Isabel had been so cruel to me for 3 years. I tried to use that as a shield, but I realized I couldn't muster any hatred for her. My eyes started to burn. In that moment, I finally understood just how pathetically human a person could be. "The CEO's wedding is in a few days," the manager typed in the chat. "Everyone can attend, except for a skeleton crew to keep things running. Any volunteers for the stay-behind crew? If not, I'll have to assign people." I was the first and only one to volunteer. Almost no one else wanted to miss the wedding of the century. Isabel wasn't just a Reed heiress. She was the reigning queen of New York finance. The event was guaranteed to be spectacular. I wasn't trying to torture myself. Attending your ex's wedding. That's the kind of thing that only happens in novels. 09 on the day of Isabel's wedding. The Reed Corporation was a ghost town. 2/3 of the staff were gone. The few of us left behind grumbled all day. It was the quietest day I'd had since I started working there, but also the longest. The company Slack had a strict, no non-work-related chat policy, but that didn't stop management from posting a constant stream of photos from the venue. I clicked open a few. The place was packed, a sea of people that looked more like a rock concert than a wedding. But after a while, the tone of the messages suddenly shifted. Someone dropped a bomb in the chat that set the whole channel on fire. Holy crap. The boss is a runaway bride. She's gone. In an instant, the notifications hit 99 plus. The chat was scrolling so fast, it was a blur. No way, for real? No wonder we haven't seen the bride yet. It's true. She bolted over an hour ago. It's absolute chaos here. The Crofts and the Reeds are freaking out, looking for her everywhere. Insider info. I heard the boss is secretly in love with someone else, but was forced into this marriage by her family. Whoa, that's messed up. Are all these rich families that nuts? Arranged marriages. My guess is she's running to be with her true love. So romantic, a real-life runaway princess of New York City. The guy she'd run away from all this for must be the love of her life. The Slack channel was moving so fast my phone started to lag. I just stared at the screen, my mind blank, unable to process what was happening. Suddenly, the office doors were kicked open with a deafening crash. And there stood Isabel, a vision in her white wedding gown. She was slightly out of breath, her expression frantic, but she was still breathtakingly beautiful. I shot to my feet, stunned. What are you doing here? Isabel's eyes swept across the handful of us in the office, her gaze landing on me and stopping cold. How could you? Before I could finish my sentence, she strode over and slapped me hard across the face. Shut up. You don't get to speak right now. She hit me again. With every question, another slap. Why didn't you come crash the wedding? Slap. Why did you pretend you didn't know me? Slap. Why did you let them destroy our home? Slap. Why did you break up with me on Valentine's Day? Her expression was colder than I had ever seen it. The ferocity in her eyes matched the worst nights of the past 3 years. You remember? I stammered, cupping my burning cheeks. Remember? What is there to remember? She sneered. Was it fun playing strangers with me? This is your punishment for breaking up with me. I told you, she said, her lips curling into a triumphant, mocking smile. I have my ways of making you show your hand. She never had amnesia. This lunatic. She had played everyone. You're insane. You're a goddamn psychopath. I finally yelled, my whole body trembling as I pointed a shaking finger at her. Do you have any idea what you've done? To get her revenge on me, she had orchestrated a public escape from her own wedding. She hadn't just humiliated the Crofts and the Reeds. The guest list was a who's who of New York's elite. Isabel had just played every single power player in the city for a fool. Yes, I'm a psychopath. You of all people should know that after the last 3 years, shouldn't you? She shot back, her laughter wild and unhinged. I know you were mad that I was only psycho with you, so I decided to go big. Now I'm a psycho with everyone. Are you satisfied? I felt a wave of despair wash over me. This was the real her. And there's one more thing you don't know, she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. There was never a second personality. The daytime and nighttime thing, that was all an act. This, she said, gesturing to herself, the psycho is who I've always been. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. My mind went numb. Isabel's deception was so complete, so masterful. Even my sister, a trained psychiatrist, had been fooled. She grabbed my arm and started pulling me toward the door. But I no longer trusted her. I yanked my arm away, my own anger surging. Her fingers closed around my throat, her grip like steel. We were going to the courthouse to get a marriage license. Now, she said, her voice deadly calm. They're all calling me a runaway bitch. The least I can do is have the little homewrecker who seduced me share some of the blame. And of course, you don't have the right to refuse. Are you coming? Or do you want me to slap you again? I stared at her, my mind reeling. Once upon a time, this was all I had ever dreamed of. But because of her family's opposition, she had never committed. I couldn't refuse her. She was a psychopath. She had me completely and utterly trapped. I knew the consequences of resisting her better than anyone. They would be far, far worse than a runaway wedding. It wasn't until the marriage certificate was in my hand that I finally believed it. Isabel Reed and I were married. The process wasn't exactly perfect, and in our official photo, my cheeks were visibly swollen. "So, how does it feel to be officially promoted?" Isabel asked, a rare, teasing note in her voice. I just shook my head, still feeling like I was in a dream. "I was so angry," she confessed, her tone shifting. "You only loved the gentle me. When I showed you my true self, you never once said you loved me. So I couldn't stop myself from being cruel to you." It was as if Isabel had changed, but also not at all. In the past, her true self had never offered me a kind word, let alone an explanation. What she didn't know was that I was never afraid of her insanity. What I truly cared about was whether she could be just as insane with everyone else. And now, finally, her madness was no longer reserved just for me. "What's your plan now?" I asked. The catastrophe Isabel had created today was immense. I couldn't imagine there wouldn't be serious consequences. "Don't worry, I've got it handled," she said with confidence. "I don't need the Reed family, but they need me. Who do you think built the Reed Corporation into what it is today? The rest of them are useless. They dared to use you as a bargaining chip against me," she added, her voice turning to ice. "If I don't make them bleed for that, I'll never be satisfied." As the brightest star in New York's financial world, Isabel obviously had more than a few tricks up her sleeve. I just hadn't realized her wedding to Julian Croft was part of such a complex scheme. It was true. Neither the Crofts nor the Reeds could touch Isabel, but they could crush me without a second thought. They had underestimated her. No one could control Isabel Reed. She wasn't compromising. She was plotting. She was playing the long game, her every move infused with her own brand of brilliant madness. She had made the Crofts and the Reeds the biggest laughingstocks in New York. Isabel squeezed my hand, a silent signal for me to relax. I just smiled. I was just a regular guy. Why did I have to worry about her? I finally set foot inside the Reed family mansion for the first time. They were not, to put it mildly, happy to see me. Harrison and Camilla, in particular, looked at me with such venom, their teeth practically grinding to dust. If looks could kill, I would have been a corpse on their marble floor. I deliberately put on a cheerful smile, which only made them sputter with rage. Everyone was there, including the entire Croft clan. They had clearly been waiting for us all day. Isabel didn't give them a chance to speak. She launched into a blistering tirade. "If you're expecting an apology, you can leave now. I did nothing wrong. The Reed Corporation stands where it is today because of me, Isabel Reed. If you think one of those other useless idiots can do the job, then by all means let them try. I don't need this family, but without me, this family will either collapse or be crippled. I am the one in charge of this company, not you. Don't blame me for being ruthless. If you hadn't planned to cast me aside once you were done with me, I wouldn't have had to install my own people. Let me make it simple. If I'm not happy, nobody's happy." Isabel was both magnificent and terrifyingly overbearing. She silenced the entire Reed family. They were furious but dare not say a word. It was true. There was only one person with real power at the Reed Corporation now, Isabel. The executives and the board members answered to her, not to the old guard. They followed the money, and she was the one who made them rich. I finally understood why she had reshuffled the entire company after the accident. Seeing the Reeds silenced, the Crofts finally found their voice. Julian started to speak, but Isabel cut him down. "Don't you dare try to guilt-trip me. I don't play that game. And don't forget how you try to blackmail me. And you, Julian," she said, her voice dripping with contempt, "you truly disgust me. Don't think for a second I don't know what kind of person you really are. Don't try to put on an act in front of me. You're not worthy. You have a problem with that? Then have your family come after me. Let's see whose connections are stronger, the Crofts or the Reeds." This time, it was the Croft family's turn to sit in stony, dark-faced silence. The gap between their family and the Reeds was a chasm. They finally understood. No one could touch Isabel Reed. They had been utterly and completely played. The Reeds would never help them save face. Why would they help an outsider against their own, no matter how dysfunctional the family was? It seemed like Isabel had solved everything with a few sharp words. But I knew that beneath those words lay years of hardship, planning, and meticulous strategy. She had been waiting since she left the hospital. No, perhaps even longer. Perhaps for 3 years. She hadn't been unwilling to commit to me. She had been waiting for the right moment. The moment she was powerful enough to do it on her own terms. 2 months later, Isabel and I had our wedding. It was just as grand, just as magnificent as the first one. But this time I was not a spectator. I held that familiar hand in mine, the scene I had dreamed of for so long finally a reality. Everyone was there to witness it. The runaway princess of New York. This time, she wasn't running anymore.